running back 2 feels like a complete and utter afterthought because everybody is excited about running back 3 in Deuce Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
And so, honestly, like, hopefully if you're listening to the station or you're a Cowboys fan, you knew it. But otherwise, how many people knew that Rico Dowdle was the backup running back? And what can you tell me interesting about Rico Dowdle?
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't really know what.
Almost the same name as one of our board ops.
Rico?
Just missing one letter.
You know his last name's not Dowdle, though, right?
Suave.
Nope, that is not his last name either, Mike.
Mendez?
Ooh, Mendoza. That is closer than I would have guessed you got.
Rico Dowdle is
A running back.
he's been injury prone, and that's kind of been a little bit of a problem, but he is a tough runner. And I think like that was one of the things that he showed he could be a good receiver out of the backfield, but he also was good in short yardage. Now, here's what I want to try to make clear as possible in the way the Cowboys see him right now, okay? And this is, Reggie, this has nothing to do with what you saw at Kansas State.
I'm already offended, by the way.
I haven't even said anything, and this isn't my opinion. But the Cowboys see him right now is they have like completely different roles. In not like Pollard and Dowdle have similar roles in that both of them are expected to manage short yardage and pass blocking and a lot of the other things. Deuce Vaughn this year is not going to be expected to do a lot of those things. Like when it comes to short yardage, I would not expect to see him in as the short yardage back. Not yet. And this, I say, Mike, in a year or two, maybe that could be an expectation. But right now, their expectation is short yardage situations, and when it comes to pass protection, that's something that Rico Dowdle can do very well. And so that's the expectation for him from the Cowboys right now. But I am still curious, like the difference between them, the separation between the two running backs. Where is it? Is it an idea of, you know what, one big play and we got to get Deuce Vaughn on the field, or he just can't do what Dowdle does? And I would say it's at this point, he can't do all of those jobs that he can do, but they will try to figure out how to utilize a dude that can be an explosive playmaker. He is not just a dude that you're like, hey, he's a gadget guy. He is an explosive playmaker. Pollard is going to get the lion's share of everything.
Sure.
That's what they're going to put all of that on him. But again, he is coming off injury.
Yep.
So you have to give yourself like the leniency on that. But right now, the Cowboys look at it as our running back 1, we expect him to be on the field. We're paying that dude. We expect him to be on the field. Our RB2, you'll see him in the typical third down situations where either we're getting short yardage stuff out of him or pass pro, and that's what they expect. Deuce will have a place at some point. And I know fans, Kevin, are going to be like, if something goes wrong, what's the first thing? Put Trey Lance out there. Oh, no,
yeah.
I mean Deuce Vaughn.
That's probably going to happen, too.
I'm dead serious about this. I'm not making a joke. After a few weeks, if the Cowboys are struggling in 2nd and 2 and 3rd and 1 situation, I feel like 3rd and 2 is like automatic pass, but if they're struggling in what you're talking about, short yardage situations, how quickly do you go in these situations? 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, we are bringing in Trey Lance to run some sort of read option run.
See,
that we are going to make the quarterback and the running back a running option to make it more difficult on. Now,
are you saying that can't do that?
I think he can, but maybe not as good as Trey Lance can.
Do you think he can?
Yeah, no, I think he can, but I understand Mike's logic about perhaps that's a better option.
Okay.
You also don't put him in a hurt situation. Like if Trey Lance gets hurt, nothing against Trey Lance. If Trey Lance gets hurt, so what? If Dak gets hurt, that puts you in a very difficult situation. We saw that you're able to overcome that last year for 5 games, but if Dak were to hurt part of his lower half and then have to miss the rest of the season, you probably wouldn't feel as good about your chances.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think this is a point where with Dak where I think running the ball is important. I'm not asking him to go out there and be Lamar Jackson, but I do think that whenever it's time to go ahead and get you that 4 yards, or whatever, or maybe run to the out of bounds marker for a first down.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That is like, just look at how many times that destroys people on third down when a quarterback gets that yardage that you're like, dadgummit, we had it covered perfectly. And the quarterback Aaron Rodgers has done that to us for years, where he gets that extra possession because he was able to get out of bounds.
As opposed to what I feel like usually happens is I'm going to try to make something happen. I'm like, do you know how huge it would be to get to that stick?
Eyes get big. Eyes get real big whenever you see wide open space downfield, and then you realize you're slower than the guys that you're running away from.
Yes.
But trying to get out of bounds is all I need Dak Prescott to do. And it seems like he's always like, no, I need to go pick up 20 yards. And you're like, no, dude, just get out of bounds and get the next play going.
The Dixie Chicks wrote a song about Dak in wide open spaces.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Mistake.
Then they had to get revenge on him because he was not treating that one gal right.
That was
Earl
had
Earl.
to die. Yeah. From the 469, I like what y'all are saying about Lance, but do you see the Cowboys doing anything like that? Mike,
I don't, because I think that it will bring into the conversation, should Trey Lance be the quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think Mike McCarthy is smart enough to know, if I start doing that, like even if they have a conversation in the room, which they should, do I want to bring that conversation? What if Trey Lance is good at it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the scary part, is what if we bring him in on second and 1 and third and 1 situations to get the first down that we don't believe Dak can get by running this type of option play. Then the conversation does become, we would ask the question, hey, if Trey Lance is really good at this, what if he's always a threat?
Yeah.
Can he make these passes? I want to see if he can make these passes.
That's why Anthony Wright took over, right? Because people, Kevin, people love the backup quarterback, and when they don't like the starter, they're just like, give me. They're just like the bullpen. What else can we throw out there right now? You know, whenever you don't like something, you're just like, what else can we throw out there right now?
And from the 469. The only people talking about Trey Lance playing is you dummies.
Okay.
You, first of all.
Hey, you dumbass. Go watch national television.
All we said was, Mike suggested was the potential of him running some option stuff.
That's it.
In short
a especially situation. I don't know if you're confusing us with other shows, but we don't ever talk about that with seriousness. Then
Broadus just texted, by the way, and said he'd have to be the backup to play.
You are so wrong about. We're not talking about it, but if we were, you're so wrong about that. Everybody talks about that. We get texts about that, even in other segments, all of the time.
NFL
media,
Network and ESPN have lived off of this trade for a week. They've literally, they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner off of Trey Lance being on the Cowboys. Do you believe, if you listen to us, moron, have you noticed that we've been living off of the Trey Lance trade since it's happened?
Mike, it could be a new listener. So let's give them a little grace. Maybe it's a new listener that just now found you, and they're like, Mike was my favorite until he called me a moron.
That's fine. I'm either your favorite or your least favorite. I'm okay
I
with that.
can definitely see that.
I'm pretty consistent number 2.
But
all right.
no.
So hey, this other part though is pretty interesting. What did y'all think? From the 945, Rico Dowdle reminds me of a slightly faster Marion Barber.
Okay. Oh.
I thought he was very physical in the preseason games whenever he needed to be.
Marion Barber but he was different, closer to Marshawn Lynch in his prime, and so to say Rico Dowdle is because Marion Barber wasn't Marshawn Lynch, but it wasn't when he was in his prime. It wasn't far behind how physical he was and kind of the style they ran at. So I think that's a lot to kind of put on Rico Dowdle if you're saying that he's close to what Marion Barber was in his prime.
But the thing that would be interesting with that in mind, though, is I would like to see them mix it up, right? I would like to see maybe you throw out a series where all of a sudden Pollard's a receiver and Dowdle's your lead back. Or you bring in Deuce Vaughn for a series, not to just run some wacky play or whatever, because that was the issue that I always had with the jet sweep. Is any time, and they didn't just do it with one player. It felt like it was 2 or 3 over the years. As soon as that player came into the game, you're like, oh, that's a jet sweep. And it worked once, and then it failed a whole lot. I would love to see some versatility if you do think that about Dowdle, give him a series to run by himself, or give him a series with Pollard or Vaughn featured in a different way. I would love to see that level of versatility. And the Cowboys fan in me thinks not likely, but switching up the play caller, maybe that's where you see a difference.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Mike, when I was talking about that comparison to Barber, it's more like, okay, what running style do you see that you're trying to compare him to? And yes, Marion Barber had a lot of success here because when he was physical, whenever he, like, you could see nobody wanted to tackle that dude. He had the ability to shake tackles. He had the ability to stiff arm. He had a lot in his toolbox. We don't know what Rico Dowdle really has in his toolbox. And quite honestly, would love to not find out. If Tony Pollard's having a good enough season, the Cowboys are rolling, you got a backup that's in there, rotationally, but it's not the similar rotation of Pollard and Zeke last year. It's, hey, we got one lead back, and then this guy comes in to spell it occasionally, and he does his job well.
Do I have my timeline right? He shared with Felix Jones, then he shared with Julio Jones, or he shared with Julio Jones, then Felix Jones? Marion Barber?
I don't.
Julio Jones is a receiver.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
for the Falcons.
I was really
Felix
confused.
Jones, Julius Jones.
Yes, Julius Jones. Notre Dame.
I was
Julius
like, did I
Jones,
miss
Notre
that?
Dame.
I believe
Felix
so.
Jones, Arkansas.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I don't think it was quite the same share as it was with Julius Jones later on.
Yeah.
But I do believe.
Sorry, that
you might
really
be.
threw me off. I thought, did I just miss an era of football right there? I was really, really confused.